You're listening to Catholic Chicago on WNDZ 750 AM. During the next hour, the Archdiocese of Chicago brings you programs about the people, events, and issues that touch our lives. Welcome to Catholic Chicago.
Good morning. Welcome to Catholic Chicago on WNDZ, 750 AM, 312-255-8408. Father Greg Sakowicz, the rector of Holy Name Cathedral here in Chicago, and co-host Mark Teresi, executive director at Holy Name Cathedral. Two things. Well, first of all, good morning, Mark.
Good morning. Good morning, Father Greg. How are you doing?
Doing well, but to let all our listeners know, tomorrow happens to be Mark's 66th birthday.
Thank
Am I
you
correct?
for bringing that up. Yeah.
So your 66th birthday tomorrow, so early, happy birthday, Mark. And secondly, is on Monday, August 16th, you and your beautiful wife, Mary, celebrate 40 years of marriage, your 40th anniversary on Monday. So congratulations
Thank
to you, Mary, the whole family. Now, you and Mary were married at what church?
At St. Paul of the Cross. I was youth minister there, and Mary was teaching at St. Martha's, so it was kind of like a merger, a parish merger for the wedding.
A parish merger. So the thing is, you were married, then we've been married 3 days after your wedding in 1981.
And she pitched a doubleheader softball game the Saturday. We got married on a Sunday. She pitched it on a Saturday, and I said to her, "Be careful, you break any more of those fingers, I'm still putting the ring on that broken finger."
And don't tell me she did.
No, she did not.
But she did have a history of broken fingers from playing softball.
When she had a history of decades of playing Chicago softball, 16
Mary was a great athlete and still is. And
unlike her husband.
Well, that's true. The kids got their athleticism from mother, not dad. But so happy birthday early and happy 40th anniversary.
And can I share just two small gifts that are triumphs this week for me? One for Mary and I. One is our little Nellie, who's a year old in June, took her first steps.
Oh, that's wonderful.
We got a video, and she took about 12 or 14 steps, so she's going to start running right away.
So her first step became 12 or 14.
And our Lydia,
God
who's
bless her.
6 years old, had her first day of first grade. And
they've started school already?
Yeah, out in Elgin. Yeah.
First day of school.
Yeah.
In not even mid-August.
And it was so fun to see. You know, we not YouTube. We FaceTimed, and she's just so excited.
First day of first grade.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
With the mask.
With the mask. And by the way, we are social distancing here in the studio, and masks are on.
Right.
And folks, if you have not been vaccinated, and now here's a great question was asked of me by Father Luke Camelli, and to maybe share with those of you know of anybody who's not been vaccinated. Have you met anybody who had the vaccination shot who regrets it?
Not me.
I can't think of anyone. I've known people gone into the shot afraid. I'm not sure. They may have even gotten sick. I have not met one person who had the shot who said to me, Father Greg, I regretted getting the shot.
All right. You're right.
And I never thought of that angle. So if you know of someone who has not had the shot, ask them, do you know someone who had the vaccination shot who regrets getting it? I have not. Maybe there is. I've not met that person. But great program lined up, 312-255-8408. We're talking today about Chicago Shares, an overview of what the Chicago Shares program is. Our guest, Elizabeth Kolbeck and King Poor. Elizabeth and King, are you with us here for the program this morning?
We sure are.
How are you, Elizabeth?
Welcome.
How are you, King?
Welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning to both of you. And I want to also thank our fearless leader, Ron, who organized this program for Michael and Javi and Brian this morning. So now, first of all, you mentioned the word Chicago Shares. I had not heard of the term Chicago Shares. until I arrived as the rector at Holy Land Cathedral back in July of 16. And so maybe either King or Elizabeth, if you could share with us, what is the program Chicago Shares?
Well, I'll lead off, Father Greg.
Give it a
and
shot,
I'll,
King.
Chicago Shares is a small nonprofit organization that has served Chicago homeless for over 27 years in a unique and what I would say a way all of its own. What it does is has a simple mission. It provides food vouchers for those on the street that they can redeem at local grocery stores or convenience stores, um, so that they have an opportunity to buy the food of their choice when they might not be able to be at a soup kitchen or other type of support facility. So that's their mission in a nutshell, and that's all that Chicago Shares does. It's as I mentioned, it's all volunteer, and that's been its sole focus for 27 years, serving the homeless community of Chicago. As to more details on how it works, perhaps my own experience would be helpful to illustrate. As a lawyer in Chicago for many years, I walked all over the downtown, and like many people, I'm always a little bit conflicted when I come across someone on the sidewalk with a cup in front of them and a cardboard side that says something along the lines of "Please help." And I find myself asking, should I put something in the cup? Would that actually help? Or would it actually hurt by promoting an addiction? And then about 6 years ago, I heard about Chicago Shares when buying the Streetwise magazine. And when I read about it, I thought, here is something very simple but practical, and as a way to help. And from that time, I've been handing out Chicago Shares vouchers all around my daily walk as a lawyer in Chicago.
It was interesting you say that,
be-
King. Here's the thing. I'm just like you. In fact, my first week in the cathedral, Cardinal Supich said to me, he said, Greg, use the vouchers. Don't give money. His words were, giving money promotes bad behavior. And in fact, for those that are watching YouTube, in fact, it would be youtube.com/CatholicChicago. I'm actually holding up one of the coupon books. These are booklets, $5 per booklet. You can rip out individual $1 coupons to give to people for now near the cathedral. It can be redeemed at the Jewel over by State and Grand. And it's interesting when I talk to those that are poor and homeless, many have heard about Chicago Shares. They say, oh, thank you very much. And they take the coupon book or the individual coupons I give them, make a lunch or dinner out of it. And so now let me ask you this, back in a little bit. Elizabeth, how did you get involved with Chicago Shares?
I've heard similar stories from other people, but we moved to Chicago in 2012, late in the year, and we were church shopping. And I'm a lifelong Episcopalian, and but we just happened to be over at Fourth Presbyterian, and in their, I think it was probably in the little brochure area where you can get information for all kinds of activities that the church is involved in. There was some information about Chicago Shares. And my husband and I had both been active for many years in feeding ministries. So I took one of those brochures with me, and we had gone over to Fourth Press because we knew a rector that was there, and we thought we'd take a break from our personal church shopping and visit him that day. But so many churches, the church we do belong to, St. Chrysostom's, the Episcopal Cathedral, the Catholic Cathedral. I mean, there are churches all over the place that make these shares available for sale and encourage their parishioners to buy them. So it was through that church relationship and then getting involved in other feeding ministries and talking to Ron, our fearless leader, on the telephone, and then putting them into use, putting them into practice, and working with people on the street and asking if they know about it. We had to know something about it to tell them about it. So it's just an absolutely marvelous program. And Ron always calls it one of Chicago's best kept secrets.
It is, truly is.
That shouldn't be kept secret. So that's how we became involved. And, we wanted to help and do anything we could for the program to help it grow. And then I joined the board. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. So you kind of get drawn in. You get drawn in to make individual contributions, and then if you find out that you can contribute to the whole picture, that's what you do, and that's what we did.
King, I have two questions. The second one is the process. How do people contribute? But the first is, I'm fascinated with your name, King. How did you get that name? Is it a family name?
It's a family name, yes. And I can tell you that King Poor was not an easy name to have in grade school. My father moved around a lot, and I was always kind of like the new kid in the middle of the school year. You can picture, the teacher says, class, we've got a new boy today, King Poor. So, it was not easy. Probably my first 13 years, but here I am. I'm still King Poor.
It's very unique. Very unique.
I have to admit, I've never heard of the name King Poor.
No.
It sounds like a football player.
Well, I get, when I call up as a lawyer, sometimes I'll say it's my name is King Poor, and they'll say, is that your trade name?
Now, what's the process for people contributing? Also, I throw out, this is the kind of thing at Christmas time, instead of giving people things they don't need, you could contribute to this and really serve the poor in some way. But how do we do that?
Well, there's two ways you can do it. You can, how I got started was I went to the Chicago Shares website, because as I mentioned,
and what is that website, King?
And that website is www.chicagoshares, one word, .org.
One more time.
www.chicagoshares, one word, .org. And there you can get it. It's very simple. You just go and you'll find the prompts for buy shares, and you can buy them. They're in $1 increments, but they come in packs of 5. So what you can buy 5 times 5, or 5 times 10, and then they come with a very handy little piece of paper that tells you or tells the recipient where they can redeem these. And we'll talk a little bit more about what the network looks like now. We're very excited about the expansion of the program.
King and Elizabeth, before the pandemic hit in March of 2020, once a month, the volunteers from the program would come to the cathedral, and all the masses sell Chicago shares in the back of church, and we'd make a big announcement about it saying, folks, instead of giving money to the poor, there's a program called Chicago Shares. So many people would purchase these Chicago share booklets at $5 a booklet. Maybe, like you say, King, give $25 for 5 booklets, and then either give a booklet of $5 or $1 per person. And it really makes a huge difference because, like you, King, and I'm sure like Elizabeth and Mark and all the listeners, you meet many homeless downtown. Now, a little side story. I've gotten to know the homeless in the area by name. And I asked one of the gentlemen a few years ago, I said, what's the hardest part about being homeless? And he said, this answer threw me. He said, the hardest part about being homeless, nobody wants to look at you.
Wow.
And I thought, whoa, it's so true. We see somebody on the sidewalk or walking toward us, and what do? We take our eyes and move it in a different direction, afraid that if I make contact with you, he or she will ask me, do you have $1?
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't look at the person, in my mind, they're not there. So the hardest part about being homeless, nobody wants to look at you. So I always make contact. I talk with them. I've learned some great stories about these individuals, where they're from. Mark, take us to break.
Okay, WNDZ, 750 AM on your dial, Catholic Chicago, 312-255-8408, or you can see us right now, youtube.com/Catholic Chicago. We'll be back with King Poor, with Elizabeth Kolbeck, talk some more about Chicago Shares. That's www.chicagoshares.org. We'll be back in a few minutes. Please stay tuned.
Do you have an old bicycle that's not being used? Consider donating it to Catholic Charities Veterans Bike Project of Lake County. Skilled volunteers are refurbishing bicycles to make them safe and ready to be used by veterans to get to and from their new places of work. We also gratefully accept financial contributions that are used to purchase bike helmets and other safety accessories. Our veterans have faithfully served the United States, and now it is our privilege to serve them. For more information on the Veterans Bike Project of Lake County, call 847-782-4219. That's 847-782-4219.
Welcome back.
Es fabuloso verlos.
Dobrze jest znowu być razem.
It's good to be together again.
After so many months apart, pandemic capacity limits have been lifted, and we want to welcome everyone back to church. We can all pray together again. And listen as our choirs lift their voices in song.
We've been together in spirit.
And now, when you are ready, our doors are open wide.
Nuestras puertas están abiertas de par en par.
Nasze drzwi są otwarte.
And we're here to welcome you back to Catholic Mass.
We're back, Catholic Chicago, WNDZ 750 AM on your dial 312-255-8408, or you can go to YouTube right now, youtube.com/Catholic Chicago.
You know, Mark, I really I like that shirt you're wearing. When I was a family.
It's kind of
growing up.
bright a little bit. But
When I was a kid, I remember we had a picnic tablecloth that looked like your shirt.
yeah, geez, thank you very much,
Mhm.
Father.
I thought I'd say
This is a
that.
serious program here. We're trying. Now, just so you know, the mask is actually from a friend of mine in L.A. This is from the Getty Museum. They produce different masks that kind of, you got to wear a mask, so you may as well have a little bit of fun.
Mine's
with
from
it.
Northwestern Hospital.
Is-
Top that.
Anyway, here we are. Chicago shares King Poor, Elizabeth Colbeck. Elizabeth, so I'm at Cathedral, and there are a couple of folks that the homeless folks that I've become friends with. And to Greg's point, you know, like my wife would come some days pick me up, and the one particular person will always ask me anytime I see him, how's your wife doing? How's the family? You know, he's very interested in family. Any stories that you have in terms of with Chicago Shares, how you've kind of built relationships with some folks?
Certainly. I could shout out right now to George and Ike and, just any number, Willie, any number of people that we do stop and visit with and pass shares along to. Also, we have a partnership with Streetwise, and in fact, someone from Streetwise is on the
board.
Chicago Shares board. But we also talk to those gentlemen and just check up on some of the people that we both meet as we walk down the street. And so, yes, I've made some wonderful relationships and know about their families and who's looking for a job and who's fortunate enough to have gotten one.
Mm-hmm.
I also can identify now with their feeling of just being faceless or anonymous, because I happened to be walking down the street with a cart full of food, bag lunches, to take to a church for the Chicago Help Initiative, and I was on foot instead of in a car that day. And I looked up, and I just normally would say hi to people I meet on the street. And when I said hi to someone, they put their heads down and walked away from me and actually moved over on the sidewalk. And all of a sudden I realized they thought I was homeless. And I felt
wow.
they feel every day. And I mean, and I remember going back to church to drop off my first, or to pick up some more to bring them back. And I said, it's amazing. And
so this person
right.
looked away from you thinking that you were the homeless one.
Wow.
That's amazing. So this person actually moved away from you, not making contact with you, thinking that you were the homeless one with the shopping cart.
So
I had a cart with bags on it, and they thought, you
can empathize. Now here's a Greg story. We were coming over to radio. This is months ago. You probably don't even remember it, but there was a gentleman in our corridor who had, all of his belongings were there. I said good morning to him, and it's terrible to say, but I'm thinking, do I ask him to move on? Anyway, I didn't. I just said good morning, and Greg came out. We came out, and he's walking down the street, and Greg says, I forget the name, but Greg said, "Oh, good morning, Tom. How are you doing?" And they had a conversation. Greg knew him. And as we're walking here toward radio, he said, we're only one step away from a tragedy or something causing us to be in his spot. And I thought that's probably part of what Chicago Shares does. It opens up those doors to humanity, that we are all connected in some way. So actually, it's rare for me to say something nice about Greg, but
I'm speechless, which is very rare for me. And well, thank you very much for that, Mark. I actually forgot about that, and but thank you, King. A question: give us the process of purchasing Chicago Shares, because right now, you can get them online. Are you aware of any churches right now that are again selling Chicago Shares? The Cathedral, we will, when things begin to open up even further. And also regarding the Chicago Share coupons cannot be remitted just anywhere. Tell us about that process.
As far as where you get them, in addition to getting them online, you can buy them at churches. I've been working at home for the last 18 months, so I've only been downtown a few times, and I always bring, just as I have for years, I put Chicago Shares in my wallet. I put a couple of these in my wallet, and when I see someone, they're there. But I have bought shares at St. Pete's on Madison, and I know they're available other places. And what we are really excited about now, and we're very grateful to the Jewel Food Store Company, because we have essentially more than doubled our network of stores that will redeem the coupons now, thanks to some good work by Ron and Julie, of our executive director. Jewel has agreed to add 14 new stores to our network. We used to have, Liz, how many did we have before? It was 6 or something.
I think it's now up to 20 Jewels.
Yeah. So we now have 20 Jewel stores near North Side, Lincoln Park, Avondale, Wrigleyville, North Park, Edgewater, Uptown, near South Side, and we even have one in Evanston now. This is a game changer for us, because we have significantly expanded the network now, and that means that when you hand these out, they actually become more valuable because it's easier to redeem them. There's more places to redeem them, and that is a great benefit. And we're each of our board members, Liz and I are both on the board. We've been out to the 14 new stores and explained the program. I was out at the Evanston Jewel and explaining how it works. They were very receptive to it. So we're just really grateful to Jewel for what they've done to help us expand this network. And it's good for them. When someone redeems them, it's cash to them too. So they have been really wonderful corporate citizens in expanding the network, and we are very thankful to Jewel for what they've done.
Wonderful. Now,
You know, I've told my friends it no longer gives them an excuse if they don't work in the downtown area where they're liable to see someone on the street and know that they can redeem them at, you know, our more limited network. I said, now in all parts of the city, we're touching all parts of the city, and you can be on a subway far away from where you live and see someone that needs help, and you can say, there's a long list of Jewel stores that you can take this to. We also have a few Subways, and we've had a couple private small stores that have been part of our network for many years. Unfortunately, COVID has changed things, and several places have closed that had been big supporters of us for many years, and we miss having them. But we certainly do appreciate, again, the Jewels gave us a great opportunity to expand our reach.
Now, Elizabeth, go ahead, Elizabeth.
It also opened up a larger variety of ways that the shares can be used with people all over the city. As I think Poor might have mentioned, or maybe Greg, it was you, that you can give shares to someone, that person that has everything, and say, hand these out to someone and explain how the program works. And it might give them a good feeling. They might go buy shares next time themselves to hand out. Many of the churches, especially during COVID, things changed, and there weren't as many people on the streets either. Some of the people that were unhoused had housing in other places, and they may have had some restrictions of the hours. Many people who hadn't been in shelters before had to get used to having to get back to that shelter by a certain time in the evening. And so there was still a need to have shares. They could go to some of the feeding programs they go to, but they had needs for breakfast, for lunches. Some of the times they worried about being able to get back to their shelter that they were staying at. And if the meal program took too long, or if transportation didn't work out for them, so to be able to still have these shares in their pocket and be able to stop at any Jewel will be a real blessing coming into the winter.
We need to bring the segment to a close, so maybe King, one more time. If someone would like to purchase or go to the website, one more time.
Yes, if you want to buy them at our website, it is www.chicagoshares.org. www.chicagoshares.org. And it's very easy to get them. If I can figure it out, it's
something like
very
me.
easy to do.
I want to thank in a very special way Elizabeth Kolbeck and King Poor, who represent well Chicago Shares, along with Ron Polonichek, who's been our quarterback and fearless leader to the entire board of governors, to the group. I want to say thank you. Elizabeth and King, you've done a marvelous job explaining the whole Chicago Shares process and program. So I want to thank you for joining us. You are listening to Catholic Chicago, WNDZ 750, 312-255-8408. Father Greg Sakowicz and Mark Teresi, stay with us and do not touch that dial. We'll be back in a minute.
Throughout the COVID-19 pandemic, Catholic Charities has continued to respond to the needs of people who come to us for assistance. More than 850,000 meals and food parcels have been offered to those who are struggling with food insecurity. Over 108,000 homelessness prevention hotline calls have been answered. Over 22,000 people have received mental health services, and $2 million in financial assistance has been provided to keep people housed. If you or someone you know needs assistance, email us at gethelp@catholiccharities.net. That's gethelp@catholiccharities.net. Or call 312-655-7700. That's 312-655-7700. Before, during, and after COVID-19, Catholic Charities is here for you.
The cemetery ministry is a core ministry of our Catholic faith tied to the corporal works of mercy. It's comforting to know that our Catholic cemeteries are caring for the remains of our loved ones awaiting the resurrection. There are 44 Archdiocese of Chicago Catholic cemeteries willing to help you in your time of loss. Call 708-449-6100 or visit CatholicCemeteriesChicago.org. Catholic Cemeteries, serving the Catholic community since 1837.
You're listening to Catholic Chicago on WNDZ 750 AM. Every Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m., the Archdiocese of Chicago presents programming about the people, events, and issues that touch our lives. Thanks for letting us be part of your morning. Now again, Catholic Chicago.
Welcome back to Catholic Chicago on WNDZ 750 AM, 312-255-8408. Father Greg Sakowicz, Mark Teresi, we are both social distancing and masks, and we are live streaming. Beside the phone number 312-255-8408, youtube.com/Catholic Chicago. So join us one way or the other. And this tremendous second half program we have lined up this morning, the Gateway Foundation, Addiction and Recovery. Our guests are Mark Turner, President, Community Services Division, and Jamel Tillman, Treatment Grad. So to Mark and to Jamel, welcome to the program this morning. How are you both?
Good morning, Father Greg. How are you this morning?
Doing very well, boy. Love your enthusiasm there, Mark.
Mm-hmm.
How are you doing there, Jamel? We can't hear you, Jamel. Are you on mute or something? I can see you as we're live streaming here, but I can't hear your voice, so I'm sure we'll figure it out from this end over here. So maybe just for a moment, if you could, Mark, you're the president of the Community Services Division. Give us the history of the Gateway Foundation, for those that have certainly heard the name, but really know very little about it.
Sure. Gateway Foundation has been serving Chicagoland and Illinois for over 50 years. We started in 1968 and are the only statewide provider. We have services around Chicagoland, but we are also statewide. We have a facility up miles from the Wisconsin border, and we go all the way down to the end of southern Illinois. And we provide a continuum of services from residential intensive services through day treatment and outpatient, and then follow-up services through alumni. We also, in the pandemic, have switched to and have a virtual platform that we call Gateway Connect that can keep people connected to recovery at any point in their recovery journey.
Can you speak a little bit? Do we have Jamel or no?
Are you there, Jamel?
No, we're still working.
We're still working on Jamel, okay.
Mark, can you explain to our listeners, as you look at the word addiction, what does that mean? What should people be looking for in terms of either themselves or working with a loved one that is suffering from addiction?
So addiction is really that. First of all, it's a disease and not a moral failing. Mm-hmm. I think that's really important for you and the listeners to understand that this is a disease. And it is also a disease of the brain, in that when somebody is addicted to a substance or addicted to a process, they have the compulsion to engage in that regardless of the consequences. Whether or not they want to stop, they find themselves unable to stop almost regardless. And so they repeat that behavior without any sense of those consequences. And you know, those consequences can be devastating, both from a health perspective, from an economic perspective, and certainly this is a disease that has a huge impact on families and communities.
Now, for example, Mark, we can talk of gambling addiction, alcohol addiction, drug addiction, pornography addiction. Those are just to name some of the addictions that quickly come to mind. And I especially know with the area of the drinking addiction, many times the man or woman will drink and the spouse angry, wants to end the marriage, and the other person promises, I'll never do this again. And that lasts 1, 2, 3 days, maybe a week. And it's just a cycle that just keeps repeating itself. Am I correct?
It does, and when that person makes that promise, they're not telling a lie. It is what they believe at that moment that they make that, because they're miserable in the cycle. They just don't know how to break that cycle without outside help. And the family may have heard this many times over again, and you know, their frustration and their intolerance of it, or their lack of understanding that it is a disease and it requires some resources to help that person deal with it. And that's one of the things that we as Gateway want to be seen as in the communities that we serve, as a resource to help people with this disease of substance use disorder. You know, we serve, you mentioned alcohol, Father Greg, that, you know, more than half of who we see has a primary issue with alcohol use disorder. And then we see other, you know, opiates, methamphetamines, benzodiazepines. But, you know, alcohol is what we see more than half of. And certainly in the last 18 months during the pandemic, we know that alcohol sales have increased significantly. And there are perhaps people out there who have crossed lines with their alcohol use that they would have never crossed before, and that they're really in a place where they need help. And so, you know, we want to know, you know, one of the messages that I think is really important is that treatment works.
Now, what are some of the, Mark, what are some of the major barriers to treatment? Okay, now along those lines, but now what are some of the major barriers to treatment?
Well, I think stigma is an important barrier. People think of this not as a disease, but as a moral failing. You know, if you have a problem with diabetes or you have cancer, you're not ashamed to ask people for help or recommendations as to what is the best way to deal with that. But I think that we still have, even, you know, in the 21st century, there's a lot of stigma around substance use disorder. And so that is often a barrier because they think about this as a moral failing.
Now, I think Jamel, is Jamel on?
She just joined us.
Okay.
Yes, I'm here.
Well,
Good morning,
Jamel. Welcome, Jamel.
Hey. Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you for being on.
Beautiful smile and all.
Yes. Now, I had a question. You're a treatment grad. Can you explain that to us?
Well, that actually means that I had a successful completion from Gateway Lake Villa. I was able to harness and understand the coping skills that they put inside of me to be able to deal with my disease.
Mm-hmm.
My main substance of choice was alcohol, and I'm also here to carry the message. It carried through my life professionally, that I'm beginning to pursue those avenues to be able to do some things like he was speaking of, destigmatize substance use disorder, and show them that it works if you just kind of take that first step.
How did you take the first step? Where were you in your life, and how did that first step occur?
Well, the first step actually occurred in the mind, where I realized that my life was taking a toll on not only myself but my family. And then I also saw that the places that I thought I was supposed to be. I wasn't there. I was making choices adverse to what God had planned for me. You know, by this being the Catholic radio station, my faith is very strong, and I saw myself in darker places. That line that he was speaking about that I thought I would never cross, I found myself crossing it, making choices of substances over responsibility, deciding to spend the majority of my time just staying in mood of mind altering state. And it took a moment of clarity, just a split second, for me to actually say it out loud that I needed help. You know, because I would think it, but in the same moment I would think it, the shame and guilt would kick in, and then I would do those things that I would normally do to kind of numb or silence that voice in my head. So once I got to that point, I made a phone call, literally, and the phone call was to Gateway, and that was one of the places that I was familiar with, and from there, I'm here today, going on 2 years of sobriety, and happy and joyful recovery, at least today.
Now, Jamel, did you actually enter the program and you lived within the confines of that building for how long?
31 days, 30 and a half days. So I was there for the full term of the 30-day treatment program. And maybe about 8 days in, I took it seriously about something that I was using to change my life past leaving those doors.
How was it leaving after 31 and a half days? What were your feelings walking out into the world again?
It was joy, but it was a little bit of fear of what was to come. Because I was in such a comfortable confinement. We had such a routine. I was wondering how much of that would I be able to take into the outside world. And then also how much of that I would be able to display to people who were used to seeing me a certain kind of way.
Now, Jamel, I mean, this is fascinating. You're sharing your story, and we really,
I really appreciate it. Yeah.
For sharing your story as a Gateway Foundation grad. Is as you enter the program and then spent about a month, what was you said like day 8. So what was the absolute turning point that was a game changer? Instead of fighting the program, saying I shouldn't be here, I'm fine, what am I doing here, I'm getting out of here. Because I'm assuming at some point, if you could have said, I'm out of here, you can't force me to stay, I'm doing fine. So what was that moment in which truly was a metanoia, change of heart, game changer is the best way I can put it?
You know, it's funny you say that because it was actually a one-on-one with my counselor, Cassie at the time, and she was able to have me see my spiral of aggression through my alcoholism, which is something I never recognized. I thought I was a very loving, nice person, very helpful, which I still have all those traits from my disease. But when I could line it up with my behavior, I realized that my life would be much better if I wasn't an active alcoholic. And we really had a good talk about it. And I was able to see myself in my disease, which allowed me to see myself overcoming it. And I spent more time reading some of the materials that they had for me, embodying the DBT skills, how to have positive self-talk. So I kind of bought into what they were giving us on a daily basis, but not in a way that I was just trying to get over it. I realized it was a process for me to heal myself. So it was a one-on-one with Kathy, that cycle of aggression that I didn't think I possessed.
That's amazing.
And you're a woman of faith, which means at that moment you realized you were loved unconditionally.
Yes.
That's beautiful.
It's like the glimmer of hope.
Yep.
New
It
life.
shined in the room, and from that hope, I was able to further nurture my faith.
Beautiful, beautiful. You know, thank you so much for sharing that. We're going to be back, WNDZ 750 AM, Catholic Chicago, 312-255-8408. Or you can go to youtube.com/Catholic Chicago. We'll be back with Mark Turner and Jamel Tillman from the Gateway Foundation. And when we get back, we'll talk a little bit more about what can families do to help support someone who wants to deal with their addiction. We'll be back in a few minutes. Please stay tuned.
Hi, Mark.
There is so much waiting for you at Catholic Charities Senior Services. We offer programs and services to help make the most of every day. Friendships and fun are guaranteed at our drop-in senior centers. Our adult daycare centers offer enjoyment and greater supervision to seniors who need it, while their caregivers get a break. Holy Family Villa provides a beautiful, safe environment for seniors looking for short or long-term residential facility. And we offer assistance with senior benefits, care coordination, congregate and home-delivered meals, hospital transition, and much more. For more than 100 years, we have accompanied seniors through every transition in their lives, and we are here for you now. Catholic Charities is a name and an agency you can trust. Call Senior Services today at 312-655-7700. That's 312-655-7700.
I feel special. I feel great. I got good grades.
We've seen a huge surge in our kids now meeting or exceeding grade level. Come check us out. You may have never thought we were an option before.
We're back, Catholic Chicago, WNDZ, 750 AM, 312-255-8408, or you can go to youtube.com/Catholic Chicago. Father Greg Sackwitz, Mark Tracy here with Father Greg, and we're talking to Mark Turner and Jamel Tillman from the Gateway Foundation. During the break, I was talking to Father Greg. Years ago, when I was full-time in parish ministry, Lutheran General Hospital had a program for members of the family who were living with someone with an addiction. And ministers could be involved. 2 or 3 ministers were invited. I was one of them. You had to go through the program. And I learned a lot. One of the things I learned was the woman that was sitting in our group the first day did not tell her story till the very end. She was the last person to tell her story, and she walked in beautifully coiffured, the jewelry, perfect dress, the whole shot. When she told her story, she just collapsed. And it was the first time she said she ever realized she needed help in this situation. What about families, Mark? How do families intersect with someone who's going through the program, or even families that have someone with an addiction that they need help?
This is a disease that impacts the family because, and one of the things that you mentioned in what you just said is that, for the individual who is suffering from the substance use disorder, there's a physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual component to this disease, but for the families, there's also an emotional, mental, and spiritual component to this. They love their husband, their wife, their son, their daughter, their mother, their father, and they want to have them in their lives in a different way and have them to be present and part of the family system. But sometimes they get their own emotions and their own thoughts in the way of trying to help somebody because they can be angry, they can be resentful, they can be upset with things. And so it's important for people who are part of the family system that are impacted by this, get their own issues and their own work done sometimes. You've got Alcoholics Anonymous, you've also got Al-Anon for family and friends, in terms of that being a resource for folks. But I think that when you're dealing with that family member who is resistant to going to treatment, you need to learn what are the resources and try and make it less emotional and more factual. Know the treatment's available. Know that they can call Gateway Foundation and know that people can get into treatment, and also know that treatment works for people. You know, Jamal mentioned using skill-based stuff, and that she learned skills in treatment that are useful to her in living the new life that she is living and continues to live. And so, you know, learning skills in treatment are really important. At Gateway Foundation, we do, when families are in treatment, you know, one of the things that's important to understand is there's a lot of confidentiality around treatment, which allows people to know that they can come and be secure that where no one else is going to know they're there without them signing a release. And if they do sign a release, family can be involved in both our family education programs where we're educating the family about the disease, or in family sessions where we're dealing with those individual plans of care with that individual family member.
Now, Mark, you said some these are some great comments, but addiction never happens in isolation. So if it's a son, a daughter, a husband, a wife, a mother, father, the situation, it's not in isolation, but it's always connecting with family. So Jamel, in your situation, when you were in denial, or I don't have a problem and I can take care of this, as you look back, how is it directly or indirectly affecting your family that in hindsight it's like, my God, what was going on here?
Yeah, that's a very good question, because what it did was that my family went through a lot of pain. They went through a lot of worry, a lot of distress, a lot of anger, but at the same time, they were praying for me. You know, they wanted to see the sister that they loved. They wanted to see the daughter that they knew had higher ambitions. They wanted to see the auntie. You know, I'm a very loved auntie in my family. My nieces and nephews saw me at times that were a bit embarrassing, but through Gateway and through the fellowship that I'm involved in, I've learned to shed some of that shame. I know definitely for my mom, it caused her a lot of pain. And also the bit of codependency that went along with that. Because instead of losing me, they wanted to keep me close. So sometimes, from my personal experience, the family can contribute a little bit in fear of what's going to happen to you outside. But in hindsight, I look at all the pain that I caused my family. And that was a part of the reason why I wanted to come out of this horrible disease. Because my sister actually told me a couple of weeks ago that she saw the sister that she knew trapped inside of the alcoholic.
Wow.
And she just wished I would come out. And this was some years ago, and it touched me in a way that I'm glad I'm here to come out of that today. So, yeah.
Wow.
Now, Jamel, on your journey, did your family was there an intervention? And during the process of your healing, were they involved in any kind of support group or work, or like Mark had said, that they needed to work on things?
Yes, they didn't. It wasn't an intervention. It was just a few conversations to let me know how it was affecting them and who I could be. And those are the things that helped me reach out for help. But also, my mother and my father took me to treatment. And they were there for my intake. My sister and my mom came out to family sessions when we had them at Gateway, which is really good, because the counselors were able to explain the disease of addiction in ways that they might not have been aware of. And my mother and father participated, and my sister, in the family sessions. And that helped me a lot understand how they were feeling. And they also got to see the growth and the seriousness that I had about my sobriety as well as recovery. So they were involved, and those things actually worked. Because there were other families there as well. And when we left our families and like went back to group or went back to lunch or dinner, we could see and share the growth that our families were having and loving what we were doing.
Now, Mark, along those lines, what are the signs and symptoms of substance use disorder?
Well, probably the biggest one is not showing up in lies. This is a disease that causes people to let their own will run rampant over others. So some of that real self-centered behavior of I'm more important, I don't have to show up on time, I don't have to show up, but also stealing money to support the habit. Particularly, we see some young people that start by stealing prescription meds from family members and then using those. And so really that this is a disease of dishonesty an awful lot. And so not telling the truth, money missing, changes in behavior, changes in friends, loss of interest in doing the things that used to be important to somebody. But we can also see those physical signs, the bloodshot eyes, the shakes, for some substances, significant weight loss happens. And so there are, again, as I said, this is a physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual disease.
I really like that.
So we can see physical changes and mental changes and emotional changes.
I really like that line you talk about. This is a disease, not a moral failure, which is that's a beautiful line. Also, someone gave this line to me. That is, things we take in quietly come out in noisy ways. Things we take in quietly come out in noisy ways. So then, when you're dealing with someone who in family who is addicted, and you take that in, and all of a sudden you start gaining weight, losing weight, you yourself start drinking more. It's like putting air in a balloon. You just keep pumping that air in. At some point, the balloon pops. And so things we take in quietly come out in noisy ways. But see, we always, isn't funny in life, we wear masks. I'm not talking about a physical mask I'm wearing right now for COVID, but the mask to hide our pain. And now we just have another minute here. So maybe in closing, either for Jamel or for Mark, if someone wants to learn more about the program, Gateway Foundation, give us a phone number and a web.
Sure. It is gatewayfoundation.org, and we have a number of phone numbers, but they can do 877-377-2027.
That number once again, Mark.
877-377-2027.
And maybe in the very last few seconds, Jamel, any closing remarks for our listeners this morning?
Yes, I just pray that if you're in the need of help with any type of substance use disorder or a family member, reach out to Gateway. Because it does work, and just hold on to that bit of hope, because the next day will be better, because it worked for me. Hopefully my message helped someone today, and they reach out for help.
Amen to that.
Amen,
I want to thank in a very
right.
special way Mark Turner, President, Community Services Division, and Jamel Tillman, treatment grad from the Gateway Foundation. Mark and Jamel, thank you for sharing your stories and the great work of Gateway Foundation. Special thanks to co-host Mark Teresi. Again, Mark, early happy birthday.
Thank you very
and with
much.
you and your beautiful wife, Mary, early happy 40th anniversary on Monday.
Thank you.
Special thank you to Javi Garcia, Brian Hockey Hitman Brock, great producers, engineers, and to our listeners, God bless. Great week. Go White Sox. Beat the Yankees this weekend.
Yay, go White Sox. All right.
Thanks, Father Greg.
Thank you.
Go Cubs.
Have a great day.
Where are they going?
Monday through Friday at this time for Catholic Chicago. You can stream our programs live or listen to past programs by visiting our website, archchicago.org, and clicking on Radio TV. And please connect with Catholic Chicago on social media.